Welcome to the only daily podcast focusing on compliance news of the day. Each morning, start your day with a cup of coffee and Tom Fox, the voice of compliance, to hear about 4 of the top compliance, corruption, or leadership stories you will need to start your day. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network.
January 10, 2020, the used car edition. In today's first story, would you buy a used car from this man? That man being Pete Carroll. In a New York Times story, the Seattle Seahawks coach is shaping his locker room talks about self-discovery and finding meaning in life for corporate America. As a keynote speaker, he is in certainly high regard, or at least high demand. He says that what you should find is your role and excel in it. He talks about his personal vision and his philosophy to corporate strivers in a seminar event and in keynote speeches. So if you'd buy a used car from this man, he's perhaps the speaker for you. And speaking of used cars is the Trump administration. Vows new sanctions on Iran to put up maximum pressure on the country. The problem is Iran is the most heavily sanctioned country there is. So it's unclear what the additional sanctions would do, but the Trump administration is going to target a broader range of Iranian commercial institutions and government officials. If you're a U.S. company doing business with Iran, you're probably in a world of trouble already, but I'm not even sure what it would mean, these new sanctions. So nearly 700 Iranian banks, corporations, and individuals are covered by a variety of U.S. financial penalties that bar U.S. companies from dealing with them. And now I guess they're going to go after secondary sanctions as well. But they're definitely going to move after Iran. In the more used car department, the Trump administration says it will no longer consider environmental risk in infrastructure projects. Now, if you live where I do on the Gulf Coast, which is subject to hurricanes, it is, if not completely inane, certainly incredibly dangerous not to consider environmental risk. The risk of flooding, the risk of storms. We rarely have ice storms in lower South Texas, but in other parts of the nation, I understand that is a problem. So the Trump administration's attempt to avoid looking at environmental issues is certainly a recipe for disaster, but they seem to be moving in that direction. So I hope you have a good used car that will work on one of the roads built by this new no-risk review process. And finally, Matthew Miner is leaving the Department of Justice. He's a Deputy Assistant Attorney General in the DOJ's Criminal Division, and he departed at the end of 2009. He's returning to the Washington office of Morgan, Lewis & Bockius, where he was a partner. He is best known in the compliance arena for his part in the revised guidance on how prosecutors evaluate compliance programs for companies that are under scrutiny for laws such as the FCPA. Brian Michkowski, the assistant AG, said that Matthew Miner's contributions to the white-collar program at the department cannot be overstated. And he played a prominent role in formulating virtually all key white-collar enhancements during the Trump administration. There were numerous, obviously the 2019 evaluation of corporate compliance programs, the modification and safe harbor of mergers and acquisitions, the ephemeral messaging, the Benchkowski memo are some of the leading parts of the Trump administration's continued evolution in its thinking around compliance programs and enforcement of white-collar laws such as the FCPA. So we wish Matthew Miner luck and thank you for your work and service to the compliance community. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network and a proud member of C-Suite Radio.